when that grand jury returned their decision to not indict Whitley and Dillon.
From the jurors that I've spoken with, they did not believe there was sufficient evidence to prove either of these people guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of either manslaughter or homicide.
The ANDREACCHIOs were crushed.
I feel like the Meridian Police Department, the Attorney General's office, and everybody involved officially has let us down. They let somebody get away with murder.
Whitley's mother sees the grand jury's decision as just.
She loved him dearly. The greatest tragedy for her is still losing him and finding him the way she did that day.
But the ANDREACCHIOs were determined to keep their son's case alive, so they took to social media, starting their Justice for Christian Facebook page. And in June 2019, a podcast, Culpable, started covering the case.
His death was ruled a suicide.
The actions of Whitley Goodman and Dylan Swearingen were now being judged by a national audience.
The podcast is exposing all the injustices that have happened during this investigation.
People from coast to coast became enraged, and they acted on that rage. Among their targets, DA CASSIE Coleman.
Have you received threats?
Yes, sir. I have received threats towards me, towards my family, threats of physical violence.
Take your time.
There's a lot of tragedy and heartbreak in everybody's family.
Do you sleep with a gun by your bedside?
Yes, sir.
It's that serious.
Yes, sir.
This past August, the controversy grew even more intense. Right before 48 Hours traveled to Mississippi to cover this story, Captain J. Arrington's investigative report from 2017 was made public for the first time.
I realized that this was things we had never heard.
Arrington writes, "It's my thoughts it could be suicide, homicide, or accidental, with one of the three to be proved with facts. Until that is established, the death should be classified as a homicide." That's a heck of a sentence. When you read that, what did you think?
I was shocked.
We spoke to CASSIE Coleman just days after the report was released.
Mr. Arrington's findings, this report, was it presented to the grand jury?
Yes. I have had conversations with grand jurors that were on the grand jury, and I've had conversations with the investigators that were there presenting the facts. And they tell me that all of the reports from the Meridian Police Department were presented.
But while we were reporting in Mississippi, we found a grand juror who said that's not true.
You were a member of the grand jury that was looking into the Christian ANDREACCHIO case, correct?
Yes, sir.
The grand juror agreed to speak if we agreed not to use her name or show her face.
I'm holding a report here that is dated January 11th, 2017, and it was written by a Captain J. Arrington. At the time, had you heard this man's name before?
No, sir.
I read her all the major findings of Captain Arrington's report, none of which the juror said she knew.
Does that bother you? Is that something that you find in any way disturbing?
Yes, it's very disturbing because it seems that he had a lot more information detailed in his report than what we were presented.
I think it's a travesty. I think my son deserves more than that.
Now, with the release of Arrington's explosive report, the ANDREACCHIOs were finally beginning to think maybe they might have one last chance at justice for Christian.
I think we need feds or somebody to come in here and clear this up. I don't trust anybody over Meridian. I don't trust that DA we got right now. I wouldn't want her anywhere near my son's case.
The ANDREACCHIO family and their friends celebrated Christian's life.
Today is Christian's birthday, November 4th, and this is our 7th night to have Wishing Night.
Heartfelt messages are written on these lanterns and sent floating toward the heavens.
Wishing Night is kind of a way of just letting Christian know we haven't forgotten him.
This peaceful evening stands in contrast to the war of words and deeds in this emotional case, fueled by social media that includes acts of cruelty.
All of Christian's autopsy photos were placed on social media and I think downloaded over 2,000 times.
They harassed my daughter.
I still believe someone set her car on fire.
We've been run off the road.
You're kidding.
Absolutely not.
I bought a new car, and within 3 weeks, it had bullet holes in it.
In our interview with District Attorney Coleman, she said she would reconvene a grand jury if it turned out that Captain Arrington's report had not been presented.
I have said repeatedly and stand by, if that information was not presented, then yes, that is a situation that would open the door to allow the case to be re-presented to the grand jury.
3 months later,
Hey, Cassie, it's Peter Van Sant with 48 Hours. How are you?
I told Coleman that 48 Hours learned from that grand juror that she was not informed of Captain Arrington's 2017 report, a fact that may have changed her opinion on this case.
I think they should have done more investigating and brought it back to a grand jury again with more evidence, especially that report, to present it to another jury to decide if that it would be indicted or not.
Coleman confirmed that Arrington's report was not presented to the grand jury and said she is willing to reconvene a new grand jury. She acknowledges the ANDREACCHIO family doesn't trust her to present the case, so Coleman is trying to find another prosecutor.
We're 100% confident that if the information is presented fairly, that people will be indicted. And then, of course, from there, there'll be a trial.
Complicating matters further, nearly 3 years after he finished his report, Captain Arrington was indicted in federal court, accused of using city funds for his personal use. Arrington's attorney, J. Stewart Parrish.
The allegations are false. They arise apparently from somebody either intentionally or maliciously misleading other folks.
Caught in the middle of all this are Dylan Swearingen and Whitley Goodman's families.
Is there anything that you would like to say to the ANDREACCHIO family?
That we loved Christian.
We grieve for him too.
And we grieve for him.
Whitley Goodman's attorney, Bradley Clanton, filed a $47 million lawsuit against the ANDREACCHIO family, the podcast culpable, and others for defamation and emotional distress.
You can't torture people for the rest of their lives because they got accused of a crime.
The civil suit also seeks an injunction to shut down the Justice for Christian Facebook page and end their public accusations.
You've had 4 to 5 law enforcement agencies all the way up to the Mississippi Attorney General look at this, and everyone has reached the same conclusion, that it's a suicide.
I was so confused whenever I started being blamed. I really was. You know, if they were so weak-minded that that they took pride in, you know, hurting me without even asking me or confirming, you know, what the truth is, then I don't want anything to do with them.
There's only one life destroyed, actually destroyed, and that's my son. He's not here anymore.
Today, Christian would have been 28.
So the case goes on.
I think that they wake up every morning and they have a choice of what they're going to do with their day. You know, they get to go out and live and love and travel and get married if they want to and have kids. And, you know, Christian, that's a choice taken away from him. Doesn't he deserve justice? Don't we deserve answers?